So hi, we're John and Tammy Freund with the Freund group at FIV Realty. And we are here today to, get to know Megan Lagoy, and she is a program director for the Sanctuary Foster Care here in the Clear Lake area in Texas. So Megan, tell us a little bit about the Sanctuary, when it started, and just an overview of it.
Of course, yes. So we are the Sanctuary Foster Care Services. We opened in 2020 as the world shut down. We opened, and we're just a testament to God that we still exist, having been through that. We're a child placing agency, and our mission is permanent sanctuary and healing homes. And so you can see the maps behind us show that we have homes that are located in the Clear Lake area as well as the Fort Bend area. We license foster homes, place children in those homes, and then we offer exceptional care to those foster families so that they can keep those kids in placement until either they're successfully reunified with their biological family or successfully adopted. And that is our mission.
So Megan, just tell us a little bit about you guys' successes over these years you've been open. Give us some numbers on how many kids you've helped out.
Sure. So these are actually current numbers. We currently have 104 children placed in homes in between both of our offices. We've actually served over 400 kids in the life of the agency. Currently we have 63 homes that are licensed to do foster care, and we have 40 homes that are going through that licensing process, which can take up to 6 months to get your home and your family up into shape to be able to do that. In addition, we currently are serving 38 kids in our post-adoption program, because we know that trauma doesn't stop at adoption. It is something that you work through all of your life. And so we're going to talk about the 4 pillars of what the Sanctuary offers to both our foster families and our post-adoption families.
That's a lot of families, a lot of kids impacted. That's amazing.
Yes,
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we love what we do. We love our families. What we do, I said our mission was permanent sanctuary and healing homes. We want to avoid re-traumatizing children who have been removed from their biological homes. And the biggest trauma that they experience outside of that removal is having to start over again and again and again in a new family. So we put 4 pillars in place to surround our foster families, also our post-adopt families, so that they never send those kids away because it's too hard. We know parenting is hard. Parenting kids from trauma is even harder. And so we offer these 4 pillars. The first is we do therapy and counseling for the whole family, not just for the foster or adopted child. Anyone in that household that needs therapy, we will provide, including family therapy and marriage therapy. The second is our team of licensed therapists take an on-call rotation. We offer 24-hour in-person crisis intervention. That means if you have a kid that's trying to run away, that's aggressive, that might be self-harming because of their trauma, and you call, we will send a therapist out to you to go help with that situation. The third is we license other homes that are able to provide babysitting and overnight care to give a break to parents, maybe for 8 hours, maybe for a weekend. And that is a very special service that gives those parents a break so they can stay in the game. And then the 4th pillar is why you all are here. That is our community-based support. And so that is volunteer programs, it is donors, it's anything that the community can do that helps really wrap around our foster families and adoptive families. And those volunteers do things like host monthly events to help our families feel connected and feel supported. They make meal trains when a family gets a new placement. We even have volunteers that will go help with yard work when a family gets overwhelmed and just can't quite keep up. You name it, we have a volunteer that probably does it. And so community-based support along with donations is what keeps us running and what keeps our families supported.
What do you feel like, out of the things you mentioned, is the biggest need that you need?
Right. The biggest need is really the deep end, which is getting licensed to provide that alternative care, becoming a babysitter through us, becoming an overnight care provider. It's not the same amount of training that we ask our foster parents to go through. It's less, but there's still some onboarding, background checks, different kinds of classes that those babysitters have to take. And we like to have an army of babysitters because we have an army of foster parents and a lot of kids to care for. So having a lot of people signed up to provide that break for parents, with the goal being you take the kids back,
right,
and you
right.
keep them in your home for that stability until they're reunified or adopted.
Maybe have a date night to get a break, or just a weekend or something like that. So tell me a little bit more. I'm curious about the babysitter part. Is there a certain age if somebody wanted to be involved in that? You know, if it's a high school student or something, what's the age requirement and what do they have to train on?
Good question. Yeah, we don't allow kids or children to babysit. They would need to be an adult.
Okay.
And then there are different qualifications depending on whether they're just going to do the 8-hour daytime only babysitting versus the overnight care. And so we have a staff member whose sole job it is to walk them through those requirements, but we are talking about the fingerprint background check is required for all of them. CPR first aid for infant through adult is required. And then there is an additional class that they will need to take in order to be qualified.
Yeah, fantastic.
So if somebody was open to volunteer and did want to help, they just contact you, I guess.
Yes, go to our website if you want to be one of our volunteers. We have a volunteer page. It's sanctuaryfostercare.org. You can check out that volunteer page. It tells you there's probably about 10 different volunteer teams you can sign up for. We have you come and do an orientation so that you're also trained on what we can do and what we can't do with kids in foster care, and safety guidelines and things like that. And then we'll add you to our volunteer teams once you go through that orientation.
What if somebody was out there and they're like, I don't think I have what it takes to be a long-time foster care parent. I don't know that I'm looking to adopt, but I want to help, maybe in an interim type thing. I know probably the goal is not to move them around to too many homes.
Right.
Do you have that type of need as well?
We do. So we're talking about babysitting, and I said we have the 8-hour and we have the overnight, which is really like a weekend. We also have the deeper end of that is called a respite provider. Our respite providers can have kids in their home for up to 2 weeks. So at that point, you're really doing more of the parenting role, but it's for a shorter period of time. There are different requirements for respite providers. It's not as much as a foster parent, but it's more than the overnight care provider. So there's kind of different degrees of that. And then those respite providers are the ones that are really stepping in, when there's a major need, when there's that long-term need for child care, some unforeseen circumstance occurred and a family needs a longer break, or that circumstance where we need someone to step in so that we don't have to move the child from our agency and can keep them in the most permanent situation we can to reduce their trauma.
Okay. So what if there are parents out there, they know that, they have to make this hard decision, do they just turn to your, the sanctuary and call and go, I need help? How is that?
That's a great question.
Is that just through CPS,
Yeah,
or how is it happening?
That's a very good question. We actually have had parents reach out to us. We're not able to help unless they already have their children in CPS custody.
Okay.
There's some nuances of the law where CPS ends and we begin. But yes, all of our kids in foster care already have an open CPS case.
Okay.
They're placed by the state. They've already been removed from their biological families due to abuse and neglect allegations. And then, as we talked about previously, the first goal of foster care set by the state is always reunification if possible. And then as the case plays out, that role may change to family adoption or unrelated adoption, just depending on the dynamics of the case. So we help our foster parents walk through all of those changes that happen throughout the child's case to determine whether they're going to be helping support that family as they reunify with their children, or adopting the child themselves.
What if there's multiple siblings? Do they try to keep those together?
They
Just
do.
hit me.
They do,
How does that work?
but I will say, so we've adopted from foster care. I have 2 kids that we adopted 10 years ago. It's been forever. But they are part of a large sibling group. So I don't know if you knew that.
Yes.
So we have 3 families who took a sibling set. Initially there were 5, then there was another baby born into that sibling group. So there are 3 families that have adopted the sibling group. We all live within 10 minutes of each other. We watch each other's kids. We are now one weird, big, extended family. It's awesome and weird, and I love it. But best case scenario, you keep all the kids in one home. If that's not possible, like it was not in our situation, then you keep them connected. So our kids don't ever have to worry about what happened to their siblings. They don't have to be scared. They don't have to feel sad. At any moment they can call them, they can go over. They're not grieving that loss because they're still connected.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
So
wonderful.
that's our next goal.
Yeah, that's
Always,
awesome.
whatever we can do to reduce the trauma on these
Yes.
children who have already been through
A lot.
more than they should go
Yeah,
through.
absolutely. Good questions.
Mhm.
So, Megan, is the sanctuary, is it a faith-based organization?
Yes, we are. We're founded on Christian faith, and we are living out Christian principles here. We strive to be the hands and feet of Jesus in everything that we do. We also are open and don't discriminate to the people that we serve. So we will serve anyone in the community who needs to be served through our services. But we definitely are founded on faith, and that is our heart, is to be the hands and feet of Christ as we
fantastic.
serve. So here we are in the case management hub. We've got about 10 different desks in here, all of our case managers. I was talking a little bit earlier about we do things differently. Traditional foster care, you get the foster parent's license, they have to go through this mountain of requirements, and then case management traditionally goes and makes sure that they are, every month, that they're still following the rules. Are you following the rules? Did you get this done? Did you do that? And follow the checklist. Our case managers don't do it that way. What we do is we make sure that we're checking on the parents. How are you doing? What are your needs this month? How can we, the agency, wrap around you and support you? And so our case managers are wonderful. They do things differently, and they really live out that hands and feet of Christ for our families.
So, we help with the foster families themselves, the foster children, before they're reunited. At what point are we helping the biological parents from the beginning if it's a situation? Are they going through help along the way at the same time?
Right, so we currently don't have an extension of our services that goes to the biological families. That is actually something that we would like to do in the future, and that will be pending funding for us to grow to that level. Currently, our entry into foster care was stabilizing foster care so that those children could heal until they're reunified or until they're adopted. That's where we started. We've now branched out into serving post-adoption families, because trauma doesn't end at adoption. So we want to keep those children stable and healing in their adoptive homes. And in the future, we would like to be able to do the same on the front end or on the reunification end, that we're supporting those families in the same way that we're supporting all of our families. We're just not there yet.
Yeah, well, that's okay, but you're 6 years young.
We're only 6 years old.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Right, so we definitely maybe see how we all can continue to help it
That's right.
grow and get the help that's needed.
Yes.
Yeah. So Megan, tell us a little bit about this section, and this is for maybe the younger kids, play
Yes.
therapy and things like
Yes.
that. How does that help?
Right, so I mentioned our first pillar being therapy for the whole family. So this is play therapy. We have 2 play therapy rooms here at our Clear Lake branch. At our Fort Bend branch, we have 1 play therapy room. Here at Clear Lake, we have about 6 therapy offices for talk therapy, and at Fort Bend, we have 1. So that's the newer branch. It's growing. But here, children at age 4 to about 8 don't really talk through what they're experiencing. They really express through play. So we bring them in here. There's art supplies. There's food like a grocery store. There's weapons. There's toys that they can play out their experiences. And by doing that, it's actually helping them process and gain a feeling of control over what they've experienced and be able to work through the emotions. Play therapists are trained to track and verbalize what they see kids do. So they talk out loud while the child is playing, they're describing to the child what the child is doing, and then they're attaching emotions and meaning to it. The child may never verbally acknowledge that the therapist is right, but it is helping them process what they're feeling and what they've experienced. It's a really great healing process for kids.
Let's talk a little bit about the age, like we talked about. So, Megan, what do you see as far as the most age group that you see, most frequent age group you see, and do you see all the way up to teenagers even in here?
We do, yes. So we serve from newborn all the way to age 18, and we also offer extended foster care. If a youth turns 18 in our care and they want to voluntarily sign on to extend that service, if they're doing well in their foster home, they want to keep receiving that support, they can volunteer to stay in the program. But typically, more than half of our kids are going to be under school age. For us here at the sanctuary, that's birth through preschool. And then the other 50% of our kids are going to be from kindergarten all the way up to that age 18. So you'll see a wider spread of ages throughout that age group. And really, kids are out there needing homes. They're of all ages. We are only able to place the kids that we have a family that is willing to accept that child or that age group. So when we get a family that comes through and says, I want a teenager, that's huge, because that's hard to do. That's a hard yes.
Age to do.
That is a hard yes for people to say. So we always rejoice, and then we can wrap around and support that family, because we know it's not going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult.
I don't know that you're dealing with it here, but we had met last year with a group out of Houston that dealt with kids that have been caught up in sex trafficking. Is that something that you find you're dealing with here?
Yeah, we don't. The way foster care is now organized in the state of Texas, you actually have to get credentialed for specific service packages. Sex trafficked kids is a service package, and we are not credentialed for that. I know that there are some very specific needs of that population, and at this point in time, we're not set up for that. But we have mental and behavioral health, all the way up to treatment foster care, which is the highest level of mental and behavioral health. Those are kids that are self-harming, aggressive, running away, those really big trauma behaviors. We're equipped to handle that. We have kids who are medical needs kids. We have IDD and autism clients here.
So how about available resources as far as people willing to take care, do the fostering and the other services you offer versus the demand that you see? I mean, is there a big gap?
There is. The demand being how many kids are out there that are needing good homes, right? That would be the demand. There are still kids that are living in group homes and in residential treatment centers that really need a family environment, and there's not always one available. Particularly for those school age, older teen kids, that's where it's very difficult to find a home that will meet that need. So unfortunately, there's always a need.
So how about as far as your caseload or the people, the kids that you have that need the foster care? Do you have a lot still who are waiting?
Well, the way it works is we actually can't take a child until we have a family that's ready to receive them. So we're kind of a go-between between CPS, who does the removals, and the foster parents. Kind of like a realtor.
Yeah.
What y'all do. You're connecting those two entities together.
Right.
But so CPS is the one that is the conservator of the kids. They're considered the parent once they remove the child from their home of origin, and then they either put that child in a group home if there's not a foster home, or they put a call out to all the foster agencies to say, hey, here's a kid, they've just been entered into the system, who has a home for them. And so we're working very quickly to get homes licensed so that we can say as many yeses as we can to those kids.
I'm not sure, we probably touched on this, but there are certain groups, ages or whatever, that are harder place, right?
The
Absolutely.
teens are probably the
Sibling
hardest.
groups are very hard to place, and then older teens are absolutely
So-
very hard to place.
Let's just say there's kids that their environment at home isn't good, right? CPS has stepped in. Does CPS then try first and foremost to put them with a responsible family member? That's going to be the first
Yes.
source, right? Before
Yes.
they have to go into some kind of foster care? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. At
Okay.
CPS, that's part of their due diligence when they do the removal, is to try to see if there's a kinship family that will take them without CPS having to actually take custody of the child. In that case, again, since we only deal with kids who are in CPS custody, that family doesn't really interact with us. It's only those families whose children have been
They
already
kinda have nowhere.
taken in custody. Mhm.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, so well, I can just share, this is an example. This is one of our therapy rooms for those kids who are about age 8 and above. You can see that there's still toys and games in here. It's not strictly play therapy. Play therapy is a very specific modality. They can do talk therapy in here while they play with their therapist. So they're learning at that age to talk through their experiences and their feelings and all of that. So it's a little different, more traditional talk therapy.
So that brought up another question I was thinking about. So are the therapists that are in here, do they have just certain age groups that they work with only, or they actually see all age? They specialize?
Yeah,
or-
no, they don't. We actually ask a lot of our therapists.
Right.
We ask that they are play therapy trained, regular talk therapy trained. They have to be trained in family therapy through our modality, which is trust-based relational intervention. So that's a whole additional training they have to get.
Right.
In order to do that, they also have to be trained to go into the home and use that trust-based relational intervention to help the family with those behavioral dynamics, help teach the parents how to parent in a way that is successful for these kids, and then crisis intervention. So we ask a lot of our therapists. It's not easy.
Yeah.
You see a lot of guilt in the kids who feel like maybe they were the problem.
Yeah, that's one of the things they'll work through, self-blaming for things that maybe, a child should never have to take responsibility for. Not always, but that is a common theme. And of course, just grief is the biggest, the grief of the loss. It doesn't matter what your biological family did to you. They're in family and kids know it, and they're going to grieve that at whatever stage they are in that process.
Kids love unconditionally. I
They
feel
do.
like even when they go through the worst
Yeah.
of times, whether it's physical or even just mental, there's some love. It's their family. Like you said.
Absolutely.
And it's hard.
Absolutely.